Hey, you remember a few weeks back when I did that video on the Digitech pedals that I thought everybody should check out? You remember in that same video when I mentioned the Digitech HardWire series? Boy, do I got an awesome pedal to show you today. None other than the Digitech HardWire series TL-2 metal distortion pedal. And I mentioned in that Digitech video that I mentioned there in the intro that there isn't a bad pedal in this series, and this is a killer high gain distortion pedal and kind of a forgotten gem. So therefore, this is going to be the very first video in a new video series that I'm going to do called Forgotten Gems from the Past, because I think the HardWire pedals are very much a forgotten gem. So before we go any further, let's give this thing a listen, and then we'll talk more about it. I hated Digitech actually for a lot of years, and I bought so many of their older products, and just about every single one of them let me down. And looking back, now that my ear has changed, my tasting gear has changed. The way that I'm dialing things in is much different now than what it was 15, certainly 20 years ago. And more, I'm starting to find a new appreciation for pedals that that I used to really, really dislike, and I never did dislike the HardWire series, but I was always skeptical of them, just because of previous experiences that I did have with pedals like the the Whammy 4, which I do admittedly still hate, but the Whammy 5 is awesome. The 4, among others. Now, the HardWire series was pre-Tom Cram, and I actually reached out to him directly to ask that question, because I wasn't sure if he was behind the designs of these pedals or not. And these were just before his time. However, I do still think that this is really the point in time when Digitech really started to turn things around. And the HardWire series are, of course, you can see they've got kind of that Boss, stomp box design element to them. They're built every bit as well as as the Boss stomp boxes, seemingly, and they sound awesome, and they're all analog. These are absolutely all analog pedals, the entire series. So I admit I got really, really lucky with this particular pedal, because I was just kind of surfing the internet, and I happened to find this one on Guitar Center's website for $29.99, and it was in absolutely, I don't call anything mint condition unless it's brand new in the box. It might be excellent, or like new, but I don't call anything mint condition unless it's absolutely brand new in the box. But this is about as close as it can get. This thing did, in fact, have the box with it, with all the goodies and the warranty stuff and the instruction manual and the plastics, and even still had the cellophane on the pedal itself, as well as the stomp lock little jobby. And if you're not familiar with this, when you bought these pedals new, every single one of them came with this gigantic, not gigantic, but this big chunk of rubber with the holes, had the HardWire logo on the front, and had a bunch of holes in the back. And what it was designed to do is, after you had your settings in place and you got it down on your pedal board, you could take the tone lock, or the stomp lock rather, and slide it there over your knobs, and you don't have to worry about kicking anything out of place if you're on a dark stage in the middle of a show or anything. So, kind of a nice touch, and every single HardWire series pedal came with that. Anyway, so I got a phenomenal price on this, and in absolutely like new condition. And they appeared, that same store appeared to have several others. Somebody had a whole stash of these pedals and sold them to the store. I actually did manage to snag one more, which is still on the way, and I'll share that with you here in a couple of weeks. But anyway, somebody had a stash of these things and never used them, so I got really, really lucky with this particular one. Now, as far as the pedal itself goes, I think it sounds pretty awesome. Once you get the controls on here, ought to have looked fairly familiar if you're a Boss pedal fan, because it's basically the exact same control layout as the Metal Zone. You got your level and your gain controls on the outside, then you had two stacked potentiometers, double knobs, if you will, on the inside. One of them, this side, controlling the high and the low frequencies. The top one here is your mid-range, and then the knob here on the bottom is they have it labeled freak or frequency. Essentially, really what it is kind of a notch filter, and you could hear it as I was dialing it back and forth, because you could hear that frequency, sweep from one end of the spectrum to the other. Again, very, very similar to the Metal Zone. Unlike the Metal Zone, the original Metal Zone anyway, it also has this tight and loose switch down here on the bottom. And as it suggests, the tight mode is more of a modern type of high gain sound. The loose mode is more vintagey sounding. Kind of seems to give up a little bit of treble, and the bottom end seems to be a little bit flubbier on it. And it certainly does reproduce that particular character of those really, really old heavy metal albums. You know, if you think back to, like, you know, the early Metallica tones and, you know, the early Megadeth tones and stuff like that. You know, it's kind of what it reminded me of. Does have an option for a 9-volt battery underneath the switch. This switch is actually a little bit difficult to get open. You have to push in on both sides of the hinge there, and then eventually in the right spot, it'll pop, theoretically anyway, should pop open. Not wanting to cooperate with me here at the moment. It's okay, I run mine on AC anyway. So if you are in the market for a high gain metal distortion pedal, but you don't want to spend amp tweaker money or Wampler money or Keeley money, or, you know, even down into the price ranges of like the Boss Wazacraft Metal Zone or the Peppers Pedals Satanist distortion. Those are all, in my opinion, the top high gain metal distortion pedals on the market today. If you're not in the market to spend that kind of money, but you want that quality of sound, hit the used market up and check out the Digitech HardWire TL-2. I have no idea what TL stands for, because it certainly does not stand for metal distortion. TL, tight loose. I'll bet you that's what that stands for, tight loose. If you're in the market for something like that, check out the used market for these. You can find them everywhere. These tend to run about the $40, occasionally upwards in the $50 range on the used market. Like I said, I managed to get mine for a little bit below that, but that's the only one I've seen, and I have not seen one that cheap since, unless it was really banged up. So I hope you have enjoyed this blast of the past with me as much as I have, as well as this forgotten gem of a pedal. Leave a comment down below. Links to all the gear used in this video will be down in the description as well. I will see if I can post a link to the TL-2 where you can go and search for those. And last but not least, hit that little subscribe button thinger, my bobber down there in the corner, and the little bell right next to it. You know, it really does help a lot. And also, speaking of helping a lot, there are several different links also posted down in the description, various different ways that you, my wonderful viewers, can support this channel, as is very, very much appreciated. Without your support, I simply couldn't be able to keep this going. Thank you so much for watching. I will see you in the next video.